The homeless man's scarred hands trembled as Marcus lined up his clippers. But it wasn't until the FBI badge flashed in his shop window the next morning that he realized who had been sitting in his chair. The woman holding it had eyes that could stop traffic, but right now they were fixed on him with an intensity that made his blood run cold. Before we dive into the story, make sure to smash subscribe because tomorrow we have an extra special story for you that will blow your mind. Marcus Thompson wiped down his barber chair for the third time that morning, even though it was already spotless. The shop on Madison Street wasn't fancy, but it was his. Every penny saved, every late night, every sacrifice had gone into these four walls. The sign outside read "Fresh Cuts" in bold red letters, and below it, a smaller sign he'd added just last month. Free cuts for those in need. Thursdays, 6-8 p.m. His 8-year-old daughter Amaya sat in the corner booth he'd set up for her, tongue poking out as she worked through her math homework. Her backpack was patched in 3 places, but her school uniform was pressed sharp. Marcus made sure of that every morning, no matter how tired he was. "Daddy, what's 7 times 8? Amaya called out without looking up. 56, baby girl, but you need to figure it out yourself. Count it out on your fingers if you need to." The bell above the door chimed. Marcus looked up expecting his 10 a.m. appointment, but instead saw a man hovering at the threshold. Worn army jacket hanging off thin shoulders, hair matted and gray, beard wild and unkempt. The smell hit a second later, months of street living clinging to fabric and skin. The man's eyes darted around the shop, cataloging exits, assessing threats. Marcus recognized that look. He'd seen it in the mirror after coming back from Afghanistan, before Amaya's mom left, before he learned to breathe again. "Can I help you?" Marcus kept his voice gentle. The man's hand went to his pocket, and Marcus saw him pull out a crumpled $5 bill. "How much for just a trim?" "Depends," Marcus said, already knowing this man couldn't afford his regular prices. "You a veteran?" The man's shoulders straightened just a fraction. "Marine Corps. 2 tours. Then your money's no good here." Marcus gestured to the chair. "Come on, let me clean you up." The man didn't move. "I can pay. I know you can. But from one vet to another, let me do this." For a long moment, they stared at each other. Finally, the man shuffled forward. "Name's Eddie," he said quietly. "Marcus, that's my daughter Amaya over there. Say hi, baby." Amaya looked up and waved. "Hi, Mr. Eddie. I like your jacket." Something flickered across Eddie's weathered face. Surprise, maybe, or a memory of when children didn't look through him like he was invisible. He raised one scarred hand in a small wave. Marcus guided him to the chair, pretending not to notice how Eddie's whole body tensed when he sat down. "Just a cleanup?" Marcus asked, draping the cape around him. "Or we going for the full works?" "Whatever you think." Eddie's voice was rough from disuse. "Been a while since anyone asked my opinion on anything." Marcus studied him in the mirror. Beneath the dirt and neglect was a face that had once been handsome, strong jaw, high cheekbones, but it was the eyes that caught him pale blue and holding secrets that looked heavy enough to drown in. "Let's start with the beard," Marcus said, reaching for his scissors. "Get you looking sharp." As Marcus worked, he kept up a gentle stream of conversation, nothing too personal, nothing that demanded answers. Just talk about the weather, the Cowboys' chances this season, how Amaya was doing in school. Eddie's responses were minimal at first, but gradually his shoulders began to relax. "You got steady hands," Eddie said after a while. "Surgeon, steady. Learned from my pops. He cut hair for 40 years, right here in this shop." Marcus switched to the clippers, their familiar buzz filling the space. "What about you? What did you do before?" He let the question hang, giving Eddie the choice to answer or not. "This and that," Eddie said carefully. "Mostly things I can't talk about." Marcus nodded, understanding. Some veterans carried stories that were classified long after their service ended. He'd known guys like that special ops, intelligence, the kind who came back different in ways that went deeper than PTSD. "Daddy, I'm hungry," Amaya piped up. "There's crackers in my desk drawer, baby, but don't fill up. Miss Washington is bringing lunch later." "Miss Washington makes the best mac and cheese," Amaya informed Eddie seriously. "She puts extra cheese on top and makes it all crispy." Eddie's lips twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "Sounds good." Marcus worked steadily, transforming the wild beard into something neat and dignified. He was just starting on Eddie's hair when he noticed something odd, a small tattoo behind his left ear, partially hidden by hair. It looked like coordinates, but Marcus didn't stare. Everyone had their secrets. "You from around here?" Marcus asked, keeping his tone casual. "Originally? No, but I've been in the city for about 6 months now." Eddie's eyes tracked every movement in the mirror. "You? Born and raised. Never lived anywhere else, except for my time overseas." Marcus paused, then decided to take a chance. "Look, I know we just met, but if you need a place to clean up regular, I'm here every Thursday evening. No charge, no questions." Eddie's hands clenched beneath the cape. "Why?" "Because someone did it for me once. When I came back, I was lost, angry, pushing everyone away. This old barber named Jerome took me under his wing, taught me the trade, saved my life really. I'm not a charity case. Didn't say you were. But we all need a hand sometimes." The shop fell quiet except for the buzz of clippers and Amaya humming while she worked on her homework. Marcus focused on the cut, giving Eddie time to process. He'd learned that pushing too hard made men like this run. Better to plant the seed and let it grow on its own. When Marcus finally spun the chair around and handed Eddie the hand mirror, the transformation was remarkable. The clean-shaven face and neat haircut revealed a man who couldn't be older than 45, with the kind of bone structure that suggested he'd once turned heads. Eddie stared at his reflection like he was seeing a stranger, or maybe like he was seeing himself for the first time in years. His scarred hand came up to touch his smooth cheek. He stopped, swallowed hard. "Thank you." "No need for thanks." Marcus removed the cape and helped Eddie stand. "Just doing what I do." Eddie reached again for his pocket, but Marcus waved him off. "We're good, brother. Really." They shook hands, and Marcus noticed Eddie's grip was firm despite the scars. Whatever had happened to his hands hadn't taken his strength. At the door, Eddie paused. "That tattoo behind your neck? 'Twan Battalion, 5th Marines?" Marcus touched the spot unconsciously. "Yeah, you? Different unit. But I knew some guys from 2, 5, good Marines." "The best," Marcus agreed. Eddie nodded once and stepped out into the morning Sunday. Marcus watched him go, noting how he moved smooth despite the worn shoes, scanning the environment even as he walked. Old habits died hard. "He seemed nice," Amaya said, appearing at Marcus's elbow. "Sad, though." "Yeah, baby. Sometimes people carry heavy things we can't see." "Like when Mommy left?" Marcus's chest tightened. "Something like that." "Will he come back?" "I don't know, I hope so." Marcus went back to cleaning his tools, trying to shake the feeling that there was more to Eddie than met the eye. Those scars on his hands weren't from combat. They were too precise, too deliberate. And the way he'd moved, the way he'd cataloged every detail of the shop. The bell chimed again. His 10 a.m. appointment had arrived, and Marcus pushed thoughts of Eddie aside. He had a business to run, a daughter to feed. Whatever Eddie's story was, it wasn't his concern. But as he worked through the morning's appointments, he kept glancing at the chair where Eddie had Saturday. Something about the man nagged at him. Maybe it was the coordinates tattooed behind his ear. Maybe it was the way he'd known about Marcus's unit just from seeing his tattoo. Or maybe it was just the weight of secrets in those pale blue eyes. By lunchtime, Amaya was digging into Miss Washington's mac and cheese while Marcus grabbed a quick sandwich between clients. The shop was busy. Saturdays always were, and he was grateful for the distraction. "Marcus Thompson?" The voice was crisp, professional. He looked up to see a woman standing in his doorway. She was stunning in an understated way. Tall, athletic build, dark skin that seemed to glow, and cheekbones that could cut glass. But it was her eyes that made him straighten instinctively. They were cop eyes, or something close to it. "That's me. You looking for a cut?" She stepped inside, and that's when he saw the badge clipped to her belt. FBI. His stomach dropped. "I need to ask you about someone who was in your shop this morning." She pulled out her phone, showed him a photo. It was Eddie, but younger, cleaner, in what looked like an official government photo. "This man, did you see him?" What happens next will reveal a truth nobody saw coming, test the bonds of loyalty, and show why sometimes the people who seem the most broken are actually the most valuable. Stay tuned to see what unfolds. If you're enjoying the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Marcus kept his expression neutral, a skill learned from years of dealing with difficult customers, and before that, hostile territories. "I see a lot of people. You mind telling me what this is about?" The woman studied him with those sharp eyes. "I'm Special Agent Diana Chen. The man in this photo is a person of interest in an ongoing investigation." "Person of interest?" Marcus repeated. That's pretty vague. It's meant to be. She moved further into the shop, her gaze taking in every detail. Amaya had gone quiet in her corner, mac and cheese forgotten, as she watched the stranger with wide eyes. Agent Chen's expression softened slightly when she noticed her. I apologize for interrupting your day. This is important. Important enough to come asking about my customers without a warrant? A small smile tugged at her lips. You were military. It wasn't a question. Marcus shrugged. Marines? Why? Just recognizing the type. My father was Navy. She tucked her phone away. Look, Mr. Thompson, I'm not here to jam you up. But the man in that photo, his name is Eddie Carlisle, and we've been looking for him for 6 months. If you've been looking that hard, maybe he doesn't want to be found. Maybe. She pulled out a business card. Or maybe he needs help and doesn't know how to ask for it. If you see him again, will you call me? Marcus took the card without looking at it. You gonna tell me what he did? What makes you think he did anything? FBI doesn't usually hunt down innocent men. Agent Chen was quiet for a moment, seeming to weigh her words. Eddie Carlisle was one of ours. CIA, to be specific. Deep cover operative for 15 years. 6 months ago, he disappeared with some very sensitive information. So he's a traitor. That's what some people think. Her tone suggested she might not be one of them. Others think he's a hero who saw something he shouldn't have and ran to protect himself. Which do you think? She headed for the door, pausing to look back. I think he's a good man who got caught in a bad situation, and I think he's running out of time. After she left, Marcus stood still for a long moment, the business card heavy in his hand. Amaya crept over and hugged his leg. Is Mr. Eddie in trouble, Daddy? I don't know, baby. Are we in trouble? Marcus lifted her up, held her close. No, we're fine. Just grown-up stuff. But as he set her back down and tried to return to normal, he couldn't shake Agent Chen's words. Running out of time. What did that mean? And why did she seem to be warning him rather than threatening? The rest of the day passed in a blur. Marcus cut hair, made small talk, collected payments, all while his mind churned. Eddie Carlisle, CIA, sensitive information, none of it squared with the broken man who'd sat in his chair that morning. By closing time, he'd made a decision. He locked up the shop, walked Amaya to Miss Washington's apartment 2 doors down their usual Saturday night arrangement, and then headed for the only place he could think to look. The homeless camp under the Madison Street Bridge was exactly what you'd expect. Makeshift tents, shopping carts, the smell of unwashed bodies, and desperation. Marcus had been here before, bringing sandwiches and blankets during cold snaps. A few faces recognized him, nodded greeting. Looking for someone, he said to a woman everyone called Mama Rose. White guy, about 45, army jacket, showed up maybe 6 months back. Mama Rose's eyes narrowed. You a cop now, Marcus? You know I'm not. He was in my shop this morning. Just wanted to check on him. She studied him for a long moment. Haven't seen him today, but he usually sleeps over by the loading docks. Keeps to himself. That one. Something haunted about him. Marcus thanked her and made his way deeper into the camp. He found evidence of where Eddie had been a neat sleeping area. Military precise, even in squalor. But the man himself was gone. He was about to give up when he heard a soft grunt of pain from behind a dumpster. Marcus moved carefully, hands visible, and found Eddie slumped against the brick wall. His newly cut hair was matted with blood from a gash on his temple. Eddie? Marcus knelt beside him. What happened? Eddie's eyes struggled to focus. Shouldn't be here. Too late for that. Can you stand? They found me. Eddie gripped Marcus's arm with surprising strength. The shop. Did they come to the shop? FBI came by. Agent named Chen. Eddie's whole body sagged with what looked like relief. Diana, she's okay. One of the good ones. Good or not, she's looking for you. Come on, let me get you to a hospital. No hospitals. Eddie struggled to sit up straighter. They have people everywhere. Hospitals, police, shelters. That's why I stay here. Who's they? Eddie was quiet so long, Marcus thought he'd passed out. Then, quietly, people who don't want certain secrets getting out. People with reach. What kind of secrets? The kind that get witnesses killed. Eddie met his eyes. You have a daughter. You should walk away now. Already too late for that, according to you. They came to my shop, remember? Eddie closed his eyes. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I just needed to feel human again for an hour. Stupid. Not stupid. Marcus made a decision that he knew might change everything. "Human, come on, we're getting out of here." He half carried Eddie to his truck, constantly scanning for threats the way he learned overseas. No one followed them, but that didn't mean they weren't being watched. The city had too many cameras, too many ways to track someone. Instead of driving to his apartment, Marcus headed for the shop. He had a small room in the back, used to be his home when he first started out, before Amaya was born. Now it held a cot, a shower, and supplies. It would do. "This is a bad idea," Eddie said as Marcus helped him inside. "Probably." Marcus locked the door behind them, pulled the shades. "But I've had worse." He cleaned Eddie's head wound, not as bad as the blood suggested, and found more injuries. Bruised ribs, scraped knuckles. Someone had worked him over, but not professionally. Street violence, not assassination. "Local thugs," Eddie explained, wincing as Marcus taped his ribs. "Wanted my spot under the bridge. Didn't know I'd fight back. Bet they do now." While Eddie showered, Marcus made coffee and tried to think. He should call Agent Chen, should wash his hands of this whole mess. But something held him back. Maybe it was the warrior's code, taking care of your own. Maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe it was just that Eddie reminded him of himself in those dark months after coming home lost, desperate, one bad day from giving up entirely. Eddie emerged looking more like the man in Agent Chen's photo. The clothes Marcus had found for him, leftovers from his thinner days, almost fit. "Thank you." Eddie sat heavily on the cot. "I'll be gone by morning." "Where will you go?" "Don't know. Keep moving, I guess. It's worked for 6 months. "Has it, though? You're sleeping under bridges, getting jumped by thugs. That's not working. That's just slow suicide." Eddie's laugh was bitter. "Better than the fast kind." Marcus pulled up a chair. "Want to tell me what really happened?" For a long moment, Eddie stared at his scarred hands. Then, quietly, he began to talk. 15 years undercover. Different identities, different countries. Always serving my country, or so I thought. Then I stumbled onto something I wasn't supposed to see. Financial records. Weapon shipments going to the wrong people. American hardware ending up in terrorist hands, and not by accident. Inside job, all the way to the top, or near enough. When I tried to report it through proper channels, I got stonewalled. Then I got threatened. Then they came for me. He held up his scarred hands. Interrogation that was supposed to look like a kidnapping. Make me disappear, blame it on the bad guys. But I got out. With the evidence, Eddie tapped his temple. All up here. Memorized every detail before I burned the files. Account numbers, dates, names. Everything they need to bring down the whole network. So why not go to the press? WikiLeaks? Someone? Because without hard evidence, I'm just a crazy ex-spook with PTSD. And because they have leverage. My sister, my nephew. They're in witness protection from something unrelated. But these people found them. Made it clear what would happen if I talked. Marcus felt the familiar weight of impossible choices. Protect the innocent or expose the guilty. Save your family or save strangers. He'd faced similar decisions in combat, and they never got easier. What about Agent Chin? You said she was one of the good ones. She Island. But she's just one agent. The conspiracy goes higher than her pay grade. So what's your plan? Live under bridges until they get tired of looking? I don't have a plan. Eddie's voice broke slightly. I'm just trying to survive each day and figure out how to protect my family while stopping these bastards from getting more people killed. Marcus stood, paced to the window. The street outside was quiet, but he knew that meant nothing. Surveillance could be anywhere. My daughter, he said finally. They know I talked to you. Does that put her in danger? I don't know, maybe. These people are careful, calculated. They don't like unnecessary attention. A single dad barber probably isn't worth their time unless I help you. Yeah, Marcus turned back. So don't let me help. Leave tonight, disappear again. I tell Agent Chin you never came back, and everyone moves on. Is that what you want? What I want is my daughter safe. Everything else is secondary. I understand. Eddie stood slowly, painfully. I'll go. And Marcus? Thank you. For the cut, the clothes, everything. It's been a long time since anyone showed me kindness without wanting something. Wait. Marcus couldn't believe he was about to say this. What if there was another way? What if Agent Chen really is trying to help? It's too risky. Everything's risky. But maybe she has resources, protection. Maybe she can get your family somewhere truly safe while you testify. Eddie shook his head. You don't understand the reach these people have. I understand enough. I understand you can't do this alone. And I understand that sometimes you have to trust someone, even when every instinct says not to. Eddie stared at him. Why do you care? You don't know me. Because 6 years ago, I was you. Different circumstances, but the same look in my eyes. Someone took a chance on me when they didn't have to. Maybe it's time I paid that forward. Before Eddie could respond, Marcus's phone buzzed. Agent Chen's number. It's her, he said, showing Eddie the screen. Don't answer. What if I do? What if I set up a meeting? Somewhere public? Safe? You could feel her out, see if she's really willing to help. And if it's a trap, then we deal with it. Together. Marcus held Eddie's gaze. I know I'm asking you to trust a stranger, but brother, you're running out of options. And she said you were running out of time. What did that mean? Eddie's shoulders slumped. There's a deal going down in 3 days. Major weapons shipment. If I don't stop it, a lot of innocent people are going to die. All the more reason to. The shop window exploded. Marcus threw himself sideways, taking Eddie down with him as bullets sparked off the walls where they'd been standing. His military training kicked in, instantly assess, adapt, survive. Back door, he hissed, army crawling toward the rear exit. Eddie followed, moving with the fluid grace of a trained operative despite his injuries. More windows shattered. Whoever was shooting wasn't trying to be subtle. Marcus's mind raced to Maya was safe at Miss Washington's, thank God. But for how long? They made it to the alley just as the front door crashed open. Marcus caught a glimpse of men in tactical gear before he and Eddie were running, feet pounding on wet asphalt. My truck's compromised, Marcus gasped. They'll be watching it. This way. Eddie pulled him left, then right, navigating the back streets with surprising confidence for someone who'd been living rough. There's a place. They ran for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Finally ducking into an abandoned building Eddie had apparently scouted before. As they crouched in the darkness, catching their breath, Marcus's phone buzzed again. Chen. This time, he answered, Are you safe? Her voice was urgent. How did you? I've been monitoring. Those weren't my people, Thompson. Where are you? Marcus looked at Eddie, who shook his head. But what choice did they have now? Abandoned brewery on 10th, he said finally. 3rd floor. Don't move. I'm coming alone. She hung up. This is a mistake, Eddie muttered. Maybe, but those guys shooting at us seem pretty real. Maybe enemy of my enemy and all that. 20 minutes later, footsteps on the stairs. Just one set, moving carefully but not trying to hide. Agent Chen appeared in the doorway, hands visible, gun holstered. Before you ask, she said, looking at Eddie. Yes, I came alone. No, I'm not wired. And no, this isn't a trap. Why should I believe you? Eddie's voice was ice. Because I've spent 6 months protecting your sister and nephew from the very people who just shot up Mr. Thompson's shop. She stepped closer, and Marcus could see the exhaustion in her eyes. Because I've been building a case against the same network you discovered, but I need your testimony to make it stick. And because in about 12 hours, they're going to realize I've gone rogue, and then we'll all be in the same boat. You're risking your career, Eddie said slowly. I'm risking more than that, but some things are worth it. She looked between them. We don't have much time. The shooting will bring local police, and some of those cops are on their payroll. We need to move. Where? Marcus demanded. And what about my daughter? Already handled. My partner, one of the few I trust, is bringing her to a safe house as we speak. Miss Washington, too, just to be careful. Marcus felt relief and fear war in his chest. If anything happens to her, it won't. I promise you that. Chen's voice carried the weight of someone who didn't make promises lightly. But we need to go. Now. They moved through the city like ghosts, Chen leading them through routes that avoided cameras and checkpoints. She'd clearly been planning this for a while. Finally, they arrived at a nondescript warehouse that turned out to be a heavily secured safe house. Inside, Marcus was reunited with Amaya, who ran into his arms. Daddy, Miss Chen said we're on an adventure. That's right, baby. He held her tight, meeting Chen's eyes over his daughter's head. Just a little adventure. Over the next hours, the truth came out in pieces. Chen had indeed been investigating the same conspiracy, working with a small team of trusted agents. But Eddie's evidence was the key. The names and numbers in his head could unlock the whole network. We can protect you, Chen said. All of you. But we need to move fast. The weapons deal in 3 days? We want to stop it. But more importantly, we want to arrest everyone involved. End this once and for all. Eddie was still hesitant. Years of betrayal had left him scarred in more ways than the physical. But watching Marcus with Amaya seemed to shift something in him. "If I do this," he said finally, "I need guarantees, real witness protection for my family, new identities, the works. Done." And Marcus, his daughter, they're innocent in this. They'll be protected too. New life if they want it, or back to their old one once this is over. Marcus spoke up. "I just want my daughter safe. And my shop. I worked too hard for that place." Chen smiled slightly. "I think we can manage that, though you might need new windows." The next 3 days were a blur. Eddie worked with Chen's team, providing detailed intelligence about the conspiracy. Marcus found himself pulled into the operation, his military experience making him valuable for tactical planning. Amaya, blissfully unaware of the danger, treated it like an extended sleepover. The night of the weapons deal, Marcus watched from the safe house as news reports came in. Mass arrests across 3 states, government officials, military contractors, even a few names that made him whistle low. Chen and her team had done it. Eddie sat beside him, looking older but somehow lighter. "It's over," he said, disbelief coloring his voice. "Your part island still got to testify." "Yeah, but with this many arrests, plenty of others will flip. I won't be the only witness." He turned to Marcus. "I owe you everything. If you hadn't, you owe me nothing. We're brothers, remember? Semper Fi and all that." Eddie laughed, the first real laugh Marcus had heard from him. "I was agency, not Marines." Close enough. 2 weeks later, Marcus was back in his shop. New windows, reinforced with bulletproof glass, courtesy of the FBI. Business was booming apparently. Getting shot up by shadowy government conspirators was great for publicity. Agent Chen stopped by, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. "Wanted to let you know, Eddie's testimony is going well. His family is safe and settled." "Good." Marcus finished the cut he was working on, sent the customer off with a smile. "And Eddie himself? New identity, new life. Somewhere warm, I'm told. He wanted me to give you this." She handed him an envelope. Inside was a simple note. "Brother, thank you for reminding me that trust isn't weakness. Take care of that beautiful girl. Maybe one day, when the world is quieter, we'll share a beer and swap stories properly. Until then, E." Marcus smiled, tucking the note away. "Tell him I'll hold him to that." Chen turned to go, then paused. "You know, we could use people like you. Observant, steady under pressure, trustworthy." "Thanks, but I've got everything I need right here." He gestured to the shop, where Amaya was doing homework in her corner. "Besides, I've had enough excitement for a lifetime." "Fair enough, but if you ever change your mind." She left another card. After she was gone, Marcus picked up his clippers, ready for the next customer. His phone buzzed with appointments, life returning to normal, but he kept Eddie's note in his wallet, a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, a free haircut, a moment of human dignity could change everything. Amaya looked up from her homework. "Daddy, is Mr. Eddie okay?" "Yeah, baby, he's doing good." "Will we see him again?" Marcus thought about it, about the strange paths life took, about the connections forged in crisis. Maybe. World's funny like that. Sometimes people circle back when you least expect it. I hope so. He seemed nice. Sad, but nice. He was, baby. He really was. The bell chimed, and Marcus looked up to see a young veteran hovering at the door, that same lost look Eddie had worn. Marcus smiled, waved him in. "Come on in, brother. First cut's on the house." "Because that's what you did. You paid it forward. You offered dignity to the desperate, hope to the hopeless. You never knew who might walk through your door, what secrets they carried, what role they might play in your story." Marcus had learned that lesson well. Sometimes heroes wore suits and carried briefcases. Sometimes they wore rags and slept under bridges. And sometimes they wore barber smocks and offered free cuts to those in need, creating safe spaces where humanity could bloom in the midst of chaos. The young veteran settled into the chair, tension easing as Marcus draped the cape around him. In the corner, Amaya smiled and went back to her homework. Outside, the city hummed with its usual energy, unaware of the drama that had played out in this small shop. And Marcus picked up his clippers and got to work, doing what he did best. One cut, one person, one small act of kindness at a time. Because you never knew when that simple gesture might save a life, stop a conspiracy, or just remind someone that they matter. In the end, that's all any of them had done. Eddie had trusted when everything told him not to. Chin had risked everything for justice, and Marcus had opened his door to a stranger, setting in motion events that would ripple far beyond his small shop. The bell would chime again tomorrow, bringing new faces, new stories. Marcus would be ready, clippers in hand, heart open, because that's what heroes did. Not the comic book kind with capes and powers, but the real kind, the ones who showed up, who served, who reminded others that kindness still existed in a world that often felt too dark. As the afternoon sun slanted through his new bulletproof windows, Marcus smiled. His shop was more than a business now. It was a testament to the power of human connection, a place where anyone could walk in broken and leave feeling whole. And that, he thought as he worked, was worth more than all the conspiracies and secrets in the world. That was the real victory, not the arrests or the trials, but the simple fact that he could still offer a safe harbor to those who needed it. The story of the homeless man who turned out to be a CIA operative would fade eventually, becoming just another urban legend, but the shop would remain, and Marcus would keep cutting hair, keep offering dignity to those who'd lost it, keep being the man his daughter could be proud of. Because heroes, real heroes, didn't always save the world. Sometimes they just saved one person at a time, and sometimes that was exactly enough. If this story moved you, reminded you of the power of compassion and the unexpected ways our lives can intersect, don't forget to subscribe. Tomorrow, we're bringing you another incredible story that will restore your faith in humanity and keep you on the edge of your seat. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. And remember, kindness costs nothing but can change everything. Until next time, keep your hearts open and your spirits high.